Hello and welcome to the LCG Production Podcast. Thanks to Rizr for coming on, man. How's it going?
Great, man. Doing great here at my new apartment in New York City, man. What's up?
That's cool. So we always start off the podcast by just asking, how did you get into music? How have you ended up where you are now?
Hmm. Wow. Okay, so how to get started in music? First of all, I wanted to be an artist. I wanted to be a recording artist. Actually, I wanted to be a hip hop, like I wanted to be a rapper, pretty much. That's what I wanted to do in the beginning. And I did perform in high school. I had a little show, with some friends and stuff. And I thought like, wow, like this is it. This is my calling. I want to be a rapper. I'm around my friends. They love, hip hop. And next thing you know, we're in recording studios. I was about like 16 years old, and we're up in recording studios and stuff. We're meeting some pretty famous people because of the location that we were in, the Times Square in New York. And yeah, like we were just having fun, man, and came to realization that I wasn't really meant for being a rapper. So I mean, that was really the beginning stages of truly understanding what I wanted to do. Then I started looking more at production and making beats and stuff. And but really, I would say even before that, the main big influence was my father. He gave me like a little cassette tape recorder, and I used to sit in front of the TV waiting for like my favorite movies, my favorite commercials, my favorite music videos, and I would record, little bits and pieces of everything, and just kind of just listen back. I just was always fascinated by sound, and I think that that's probably where my passion then for like wanting to become a recording artist and then a producer eventually. I think that's where it all really stemmed from.
Yeah, that's interesting. And I like how you didn't just go down one path and stick to it. So for a lot of the rappers listening right now, how did you realize that rapping wasn't for you? Like what did you just sort of learn from that period?
I think I realized the amount of work that it took to become like that kind of entertainer. And even though like I wasn't intimidated by it, I wasn't afraid to kind of dive in and become an artist, because later down the line I did do, like, I was the front man of a rock band too, so I knew what it was to be a performer. And eventually I still performed many times as an artist and also as a DJ, so I already had the mentality of the difficulties and the challenges that come with being an artist. But what really kind of made me go a different route, I just kind of started seeing things in a different way. One, obviously, I'm not a rapper anymore, and I'm not in that group that I was in. Basically, because I knew and they knew that I wasn't good enough, but they kind of put me in my place. They kind of gave me a reality check, like, "Hey, man, you can't rap, so like it's time for you to go." and
Yeah.
and really, getting kicked out of a group is never a good feeling, but it kind of was the boost that I needed to go in and really study what it is that I wanted to do, and kind of just have a moment to myself rather than being involved in all this other stuff with other people. And that really, like, those couple of years were the first few years that I started producing. The first 5 years after rapping, the first 5 years I just studied music production and made beats every single day. So that really was the transition right there.
Yeah, and like in a way I can imagine if I were you, I'd like although it must suck, it must be good to have people around you who are honest with you rather than just, I think the worst thing is when you get people who just say, yeah, 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 you're good, you're good, you're good. But then in reality, you're not there yet. That can like prolong it so much more. So something I really want to get into is like along your path of making music, you must have met a lot of people. So for rappers who realize like, oh yeah, networking so important, like I got to meet people. What would you tell them just about like how to meet new people in the music industry?
I mean, I don't think that there's one correct or wrong answer, or right or wrong path to go about it. I think really it begins with the the personality, the willingness to open up and talk to people. Obviously, talking about business and music and stuff is one thing, but if you're able to kind of develop a personal relationship with the people that you want to connect with, I think that that's super valuable. If you become someone that's just always asking for favors or always looking for an opportunity, but never the person that kind of just wants to see how that person is doing. Maybe you want to find out what they're doing, what are they up to, even outside of music or outside of the industry that you're trying to get in. If let's say, for example, if I knew, I don't know, Pharrell, like if I was talking to Pharrell, 9 out of 10 times people that approach him are going to say, hey, I rap, hey, I sing, hey, I make beats. But if you approach Pharrell and say, hey, how's the clothing line going, how's the anything that wouldn't be what the normal person would ask, immediately you're going to create like a sense of, oh, this person actually wants to know what I'm doing with my life, not just seeking an opportunity. So I think, to answer your question in a short way, is just develop an understanding that you need to add value to somebody first. You need to kind of build that relationship first before you can say, okay, now let me build my network and find out who's doing, who's running the studios, who can offer me a placement opportunity with this artist, that artist. If you find a way to connect with them first, I think that's the greatest thing that you can do to further your network.
Yeah, because like especially people like that, like they're getting producers coming up to them, whatever, like every single day. Like, oh, can I send you beats? Can I send you beats? Like, can you give me something? So I guess the way, yeah, like you sound like you're so right. Like the way to stand out is just provide people with much value as possible. Um, something with all the music studios that you've been in, what are some like do's and don'ts that you would say for people maybe getting in the studio for the first and second time and they don't really know what it's about?
Oh man, there's still a lot to learn. I say for myself, but what I did learn, I've had a lot of different experiences, especially maybe the first couple of times. I also owned recording studios and I also worked in recording studios. So I would say, if you're talking about, first time maybe renting a studio, maybe it's like an established big studio, or maybe it's a friend's studio. I think the main thing first is to always ask, what are the rules? A lot of people like to go into studios, and obviously, this, every artist and every producer, every engineer varies, but a lot of people would like to go into the studios to kind of just feel comfortable and have that kind of creative freedom. But also sometimes people would like to go in there and maybe drink, maybe smoke, maybe get some kind of inspiration with these things that they like to do, and that's okay. I mean, I don't encourage it, I don't condone it, but like if you need that in order to create, cool. But I would say the first and foremost, find out the kind of like studio etiquette. What is it that the rules and regulations of the studio are. I can't tell you how many times, man, I've worked in professional studios and I've had to tell clients, hey man, like no smoking, hey man, like there's no drinking, or if there is drinking, please be careful, don't drop anything on the equipment. And I'll tell you right now, man, everything that you wish wouldn't happen is gonna happen in the studio. So yeah, there are times where like a famous artist will walk in and then they just want to, smoke up inside the studio. And I'm just like, you can't do that. And then they'll just look at me like, do you know who I am? Like, you're telling me you can't do that. So it's important to kind of like establish the rules and regulations on the studio etiquette first and foremost. Maybe even have someone there, like a studio assistant, studio manager. I think that's the first rule. Some of the do's and don'ts would be, if you're hired as a producer or hired as an engineer, I would say maybe try your best to play those roles and not overstep your boundaries. Every now and then you can offer, some kind of constructive criticism and stuff, but that's also a very touchy thing depending on who's in the studio. I've been in studios with managers and the artists, and sometimes the manager is telling the artist to do something a certain way. And as an engineer, like let's say if I was recording the artist, I can tell right away that the artist doesn't want to do it that way. And I can, as an engineer, that studied this for years, I have a different ear than a manager. And, sometimes the manager just has a vision, but they don't know how to articulate it. They don't know how to express it. They don't know how to tell the artist, this is what I want. Instead, maybe they'll, keep going back and forth. And then sometimes I try to chime in, and, sometimes that would cause issues. Like the manager would just say, hey, like, you're just the engineer, just do what I tell you. So that's another thing to kind of like establish early on when you're working with a client that has a manager or a friend or a girlfriend or boyfriend, whatever, whoever is in the studio, kind of just let them know, hey, look, if you're here for, if you're supporting your artist, if whatever it is, just remember, I'm the engineer. I can offer you some advice, take it or leave it, but no harm done. I'm just putting it out there. If you guys need advice, from a professional standpoint, I'm an engineer. I can offer that. Same thing with a producer. Same thing for songwriters. You know, as long as you guys establish kind of the working relationship beforehand, or if you don't know each other, that is, if you're friends and stuff, maybe you could deal with it. But if you're new to everything and you guys are like professional level working for the first time, definitely establish those, boundaries beforehand so that there's no confusion, there's no conflict later on. Everyone's just on the same page, good vibes. And that, I would say that those are some of the most important things.
Yeah. You've obviously had a huge amount of success, and I'm really interested to hear like the actual details of how that all happened. So, could you just walk me through how you got to the point of working with Illmind, and how that came about? I think a lot of people listening would be really interested in that.
Sorry, you said how I worked with Illmind?
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, the connection with Illmind actually started around 2010, 2010 or 11. Illmind had an event that he was putting together here in New York called BLAP. So before, at that time, the BLAP stood for Beats Love Alcohol Party. And what he did was have about 4 or 5 producers get together, and he had he rented out like a lounge here in New York, and we all just kind of gathered, the 5 producers, including Illmind. He also was part of the 5. He would be hosting along with one of our friends, A King. He was also hosting, and a couple of other people came in and hosted. But it would be 5 producers, including Illmind, and we would sit at a table at this lounge. And instead of having a DJ, we were all the DJs. All 5 producers were the DJs. So we would go kind of like a pass the aux thing, which is funny because later on Illmind came up with pass the aux.
Yeah.
But we were all playing like 1 or 2 beats each. And that was like the party right there. Everyone was just playing 1 or 2 beats each. And, they had a bar in the back. They had like hookah and stuff like that. So it was cool. And that's the first time I met Illmind, about, like I said, 2010, 11, around there. I heard he was doing these events. A lot of people kept telling me, yo, you got to check out Illmind. And I knew about Illmind beforehand, but I just never met him in person. So that day I went in there and, he allowed me and my cousin, Real Gem, shout out to my cousin, Real Gem. We both were in a duo group, and we were just part of the panel, and we played some beats, and Illmind loved it. And ever since then, we just kept building the relationship. I think maybe 2 or 3 years after that, I opened up my first studio in Queens, New York. And I reached out to Illmind. I still had his email from a few years back. And it wasn't like it was 3 years and I didn't see him. Like, I went to his events every now and then. He would be like, oh, like he would kind of remember my face. And 3 years later, I rented my studio. I reached out to him and I said, hey, I want to host a beat battle. Are you interested in being a judge? So this is 2013 or something like that. I came up with a beat battle called BYOB, which stood for Bring Your Own Beats, which I'm actually going to bring live on Twitch. I'm going to start doing the beat battles again. But, Illmind was one of the judges there, and he kind of knew me at that point because I was doing beat battles live. I was already in the beat battle circuit here in New York. People knew me from doing beat battles or just showing up to events to support. So yeah, Illmind agreed. He came to my studio and I showed him like my setup, and he was like, oh, really cool. And, he judged the beat battle. It was a good turnout. A lot of people came. Then fast forward a few more years, I got reached out to by one of his partners, Atlas the Plug. Shout out to Atlas the Plug. He reached out to me. Actually, first, before he reached out to me, I was on Instagram. I was in the studio working with a client. And while my client was writing, I was on Instagram and I passed through Illmind's Instagram, and it said, looking for producer DJs in New York City, like send your 3 best beats or something like that. So I was like, oh, let me take a screenshot and send an email later because I'm in the middle of a session. But something just told me like, nah, just do it now. Like, your client is writing, you have time. So I just went on my phone, I grabbed 3 beats, and I sent him a music video that I produced for an artist in China. And, next day I got a call from Atlas the Plug. At that time, he was the assistant for Roseville Music Group, which was Illmind's record label that he started, independent record label. And so Atlas the Plug was like, hey, how would you like to open up for Illmind as a DJ, like in 2 weeks? So I was just like, whoa, like this is crazy. Like, I haven't seen Illmind in years at that point. I just sent my beats. Every now and then I would comment on his stuff and he'll still recognize who I was. But, this is a few years later and I'm like, whoa, like now I'm going to open up for Illmind. This is crazy. So I told Atlas the plug, I was like, hey, sure, man. Like, one problem, like, I don't know how to DJ. He's like, well, you got 2 weeks to learn. And so I didn't even have turntables or anything. So I had to borrow some from a friend. And I locked myself in at home for 2 weeks straight and just kept learning and practicing. And finally, when the day came, I opened up for Illmind. It was a great experience, great turnout. He loved it. Everybody loved it. And obviously, Illmind killed it on the set as well. And I kept getting called back. And I kept opening up for Illmind for a couple of more shows. And eventually, then I started opening up for people like Just Blaze and Arab Music, Static Selecta, Ski Beats, all these really dope people, man. So that's really where it started.
Yeah, that's such a cool story, man. So for people listening, like if you're maybe meeting someone who, I don't know, like you've potentially looked up to, like what's the best way to just go about thinking, like how should you act? Like just because it can be difficult to just be like, okay, I'm just not going to treat this person as like just a completely normal human being. Like if you really look up to them, what's the best way to go about thinking of like, because you don't want to come across as weird, you know?
Yeah. No, totally, man. I think maybe the only time I kind of almost like geeked out, I almost was like, whoa, like I can't believe I'm here. I was on stage with Just Blaze and he needed help. Like, first of all, Just Blaze is such a cool dude, man. Like he's such a humble guy that when you hear him speak and like let's say he's talking to you, all your nerves would just go away because he's such a cool dude. He doesn't put you in a place where you feel like, oh man, like he's so cool. Like I gotta act cool too. He really is a chill dude. So, but I did get intimidated when I heard he was coming to the venue. I already knew I was opening up for him, but when he was on the way, they said something ridiculous like, "Yo, who's the guy parked outside in front of the bus stop? Like he owns it, and it's like a Ferrari or something." He pulled up in like a crazy car, and he did not care. He just parked right in front of the bus stop, came inside the venue, and he was like, "Oh, I need this, I need that, I need this." And since I was DJing, he came up to me, and I'm just like, "Oh man!" Like immediately I was just like, "What do I do?" I was like, "I'm gonna stop everything to help him." But I was like, I can't because I'm DJing. So I called over one of the other DJs, one of my friends, and he helped out Just Blaze. And then eventually, like, because kind of like that distance was created already, I was like, I met him. Then I kind of had some time to realize, like, whoa, I'm like here with a legend. Kind of like the nerves went away. And after hearing him DJ and stuff afterwards, I had a pair of headphones, like a pair of these like wooden headphones. And I went up to him and I was like, "Hey, can I get your autograph, man? Like this is the only time I've ever asked anyone for an autograph." And he was just like, "Sure, man. Yeah, yeah, cool." And then he was like, "You want to take some pictures or something?" And he was like, "Yo, like cool set and everything." And I mean, really from that experience, what I could say is just have fun and be yourself, man. Like if you do kind of feel those nerves coming along, just tell yourself, this is another creative. They are a lot more successful than I am, but they started right here, right where I am. They, whatever position you are right now, let's say if it's me, there's still tons of people that have a lot more success than I do. I think about that all the time. I'm just like, they were once me, so they understand if I look up to them, if I'm interested in hearing what they have to say, if I want to get an autograph, whatever it is. So really just think about that, man, and I think you'll be fine.
Yeah, yeah, that's cool. And so for like rappers and producers, um, trying to meet new people, what stands out to you as like traits which make you good at that? So, i.e., like not coming across like you care too much, or like, or just being yourself. Really, it sounds like is the main thing.
Yeah, so you mean for rappers and artists
Yeah.
when you want to meet artists and rappers and stuff like that?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I think also it goes back to just what can you add as value to them, and also obviously being yourself. Like if you it's kind of like something I had an interview with Matty Beats, and he said something really important that I think a lot of people overlook. It's, if you're a likable person, if you kind of have that personality that, you can get along with almost anybody and stuff. It's almost a given. Like artists are gonna gravitate towards you. It's natural. It's not forced. People feel like, okay, like I can work with this person. It's not gonna be a bad experience. I'm not gonna be feeling overwhelmed in the studio or anything like that. So I think that that's the first and foremost important thing. And also how to connect with artists and singers and rappers. Provide, a service. First of all, don't just say, hey, I got beats. Everyone has beats. Everyone, you can go on BeatStars right now and probably get a ton of beats for free or super cheap. So that's nothing special. Like if you tell someone, hey, I'm a producer based in the UK. I'm a producer based in New York. Okay, that's cool. Especially if you're reaching out to someone from another country already, that's like, whoa, okay, cool. Like who's this guy reaching out to me? And then if you tell them this is a selection of beats that I think you might be interested in, we could also develop your sound from scratch if you're into that. If you're a producer that can produce for an artist from scratch, just offer a service. It's not like, yo, check out my SoundCloud, check out my BeatStars. It's more like, I'm a producer. This is where I'm from. This is how long I've been doing it. It's almost like you're showing a resume, pretty much. I think that that's the best way, but also have content, have things to show your personality to this artist. And I feel like that it's a better chance of you working with them in a healthier relationship too, rather than, oh, this guy just wants us to make a sale. Like he just wants me to buy his beats or whatever it is. If you build that relationship, again, like I said, that's key right there.
Yeah, it's like producers just want to sell beats and artists just want to get like quick streams, like sending links and bios and shit like that. It's just like everyone can tell when stuff is transactional like that. So yeah, it's definitely like thinking in that long term. Like, okay, I might not make as many like quick sales or quick streams, whatever it is that you want to get, but like in the long term, you're building connections with people, and people will actually like you. And
Yeah.
like from my experience as well, that just opens like crazy doors that you don't even think of. It just happens.
Yeah, it really does. It's super important because, man, like when you start doing those things, like we talked about earlier, how do you connect with artists and rappers and singers, or how did I connect with Illmind or any of those things? If you really like take a close look at those things, it was just there was an opportunity. I connected and I built a relationship with those people, and then more and more and more doors kept opening. There's very few times where like those big opportunities was me reaching out, like trying and trying and trying to, just bang on the door and try to get in. No, it's like I connected with one person or two people, built that relationship, and then they put me in the position to keep maneuvering through the industry a little easier. And it's because I built that relationship. They can tell someone, hey, yeah, I can vouch for Rizr. He's a good dude, or he's a good DJ, he's a good producer, he's a good engineer, or whatever it is. Even if they just say he's a good person, and then they find out what I do later on, it's easier in conversation to say, yo, check out LCG Productions, man. Like, he has a really dope podcast, rather than someone saying, yo, you got to check out my podcast, man. Like I do really cool things. It's this equal to a producer saying, yo, I have really dope beats. It's There's this quote that I always say, man, like when you're good at something, and this is someone else said this quote, but I live by this. When you're good at something, you're gonna tell everybody, yo, I'm good at this. But when you're great at something, people will tell you, like people will talk about you. So I think that that's really one rule of thumb, to kind of have in your book. Make sure that you connect with people and build that relationship, so then they can keep spreading the word for you.
I 100% agree with that, man. We do need to work towards wrapping up, but something I'm really interested to hear is what's your sort of opinion on like where the online space of like leasing beats and all that stuff is going in the next sort of few years?
That's interesting to me, man, because I actually have never dived super into selling beats online. I do have a BeatStars up. You know, I've had BeatStars since I think maybe the beginning when they launched, but just like the free account, and I just kept like rotating my free beats, like the 10 beats that they give you. They give you like 10 slots to put your beats. So I just kept rotating my beats, and it was cool, man. Like, you know, I really enjoyed seeing how the leasing and exclusive rights and stuff like that can seamlessly happen, like on a storefront online. So that's, I think that that's still super key, you know, for producers and artists to kind of connect. Where do I see it going in the future? I think it's still going to stay that way. I think it's going to be exclusive and leasing on BeatStars and other platforms that are out there. But also, I think now, because of the whole like NFT game, I think maybe that's going to grow the market a little larger. A lot of producers are going to have to experiment and try out these, putting their stuff up as NFTs, because you never know, you know, what kind of value you can add to someone that's just either A, going to be a collector, B, you know, an artist that wants to get on your beat and use it, or C, you know, someone is just gonna compile as many beats that you have. They're gonna start maybe their own sync licensing library, which I think that that's probably where the future is with NFTs, and producers selling sample packs, their beats and stuff. I really think that it's going to become a space where big or maybe small or bigger sync licensing companies are going to buy out NFTs that producers put up as beats and different things, because they're already doing that with the beat leasing and exclusive rights. A lot of sync publishing houses are buying beats on these stores or through producers, and they're basically just adding it to their library. So I think that that's the future, is pretty much NFTs and sync publishing houses when it comes to producers. I think that those are two main things to pay attention to for producers: sync licensing, libraries, and NFTs.
So artists should be really looking into NFTs right now. Would you definitely recommend that?
Absolutely, man. You know, I every now and then I get on the phone with a couple of my producer friends, and we talk about, you know, where we see the space going. You know, we're still discovering and figuring things out. And obviously right now Illmind is on the forefront of all of that. You know, he just ended up selling an NFT the other night for 24K. And
Crazy.
that's, you know, yeah, for him to be doing that and being on the forefront for the producers is an amazing thing. And I think that, you know, a lot of us as producers should follow as well.
Yeah. I'm really interested to hear. So, as in like selling beats as NFTs, do you not kind of need the brand already to be there for your NFT to be of any value? So, like for producers listening, like if you don't have anything, you haven't built up anything yet, is there still any value in selling your beats as NFTs because you've not made yourself anything yet?
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, and I agree completely. But it's the same thing as if you're trying to sell a lease or an exclusive for on BeatStars. Let's say, for example, if you're a producer that's starting off with no credits, you're literally still at the same like starting point, at ground level, ground zero, with how would you go about making sales. And the way that you do that, yes, is by adding value. Some people say, oh, you need credentials, you need credits, you need to have worked with this artist, that artist, or this label. You know, you need placements. But in reality, you don't need any of those things. I think that's a misconception that people think, or not really a misconception. They're kind of just taking that message and thinking that they need placements, that they need this, they need that in order to add the value. When really you don't need any of those things. What you need to do is build a brand. You need to build a personality, a brand. You need to have something to show for your work, and that doesn't always mean you need placements. It could mean you're dropping a what do you call, a beat video, you creating the beat behind the scenes. You're dropping one every day or every week or something. You have content to show your creative process. Already you went from being a producer that just has beats online or as an NFT. So I'm a producer that has beats online, NFT, and I have YouTube videos of me making those beats. So you're already ahead of the game when it comes to that. That is the value that you can add yourself. You don't need a label for that. You don't need an artist for that. There are many things you can do. You know, if you get your beats with artwork, original artwork, and you post that up, you could do a lot of things with that. That can be an NFT in itself. So there are many ways. Producers and artists in general just need to discover different ways that they can add value to themselves before going out and saying, I need to do this, I need to get placements and all that. There's many ways you can add value to yourself. Even if you create a product, like, you know, Illmind has the sample packs. He's the pioneer for producers making sample packs. And that's really where the value has brought him all the way up to where he is right now, including placements, including all those things. It's because he created that value for himself. It wasn't anybody else. He did it literally himself. And then he got to work with artists and stuff like that as well. So I think producers got to take a closer look to see what are the things that they can add to themselves as value. And it can be quick. You know, today, if I decided I'm going to knock out a 24-hour stream on Twitch where I'm creating a sample pack already, that's like a full-blown sample pack of 100 loops. Let's say I'm not going to stop until I complete 100 unique loops, and I'm recording it all live. And then I go put that same video on Instagram and on YouTube, everywhere. That's already a big statement. I made a 100 loops in 24 hours, and you saw it live. You know, that then I'll be known as that guy. I just created a whole value for myself that wasn't there before. And I can create an NFT of literally what I just did, 100 loops, create an NFT of that and put it up. And that's it. That's where the value is.
Yeah, that's so interesting. I cannot wait for the NFT space to like see where that goes, because it's like crazy. Like it could be completely world changing. Yeah. Just coming up to the last question, what's your sort of top 3 mistakes that you see artists and producers making right now?
Top 3 mistakes artists and producers. I think number 1 is not showing their face. I know that sounds silly to some producers that maybe see, you know, there's people like Marshmello, there's people like Deadmau5, there's, you know, a lot of different producers and DJs and things that kind of market themselves without showing their face. And that's not what I'm talking about. What I mean is, if the producer's only showing his screen making beats, if it's only showing artwork making beats, but never, even if it's just showing your hands making the beat, man, like, you know, have a presence, show who you are, and including like a personality. Going back to that again, showing face, I feel, means more than just showing your actual physical face. It's just showing who you are outside of the music. Unless you're a super interesting, dope, creative person that doesn't ever have to talk about your personal experiences or personal life or anything, it's very hard for people to relate to you. And if people can't relate to you, they might not buy your music. So I think that that's number 1. Show face, show personality, all that stuff. Number 2, I guess like this would be more geared towards beginners, like beginners for artists, beginners for producers. Sometimes producers, especially, I know, like, want to take shortcuts. They kind of just want to I don't know, use loops that they are not really changing up as much. And I have nothing, like, the creative process, everyone has their own, and you can do whatever you like. But I would say a lot of producers kind of just copy and paste and put whatever it is that they want. You know, they're not really changing up a lot of things. And a lot of producers especially get in a lot of trouble by doing that. You know, they end up using a lot of things that are recycled. A lot of people end up coming after them, and then you have copyright infringement issues. So I would say educate yourself as a producer and don't take shortcuts. And for artists, I mean, I don't think the same applies actually, but maybe if they're stealing lines or something, like stealing lines from other artists or kind of mimicking. I've seen singers do that a lot too, like just copying word for word, you know, certain things. And then when it comes time to sign the dotted line, man, you can't, because you don't own that work. So definitely educate yourself, kind of do the homework, study, and get better at your craft. I guess maybe 3, what do I see producers and artists doing wrong that they shouldn't be doing? Man, I feel like it's just building like the brand and everything. Also, a lot of them don't cold call so much, man. Don't reach out to artists. If you're a producer, don't reach out to artists. Like we just explained before, hey, here's my beats, and then just send a link and then hope for the best. Same thing for artists. Hey, here's my single, man. Hope you like it. I can't tell you how many of those I get, and they get deleted almost immediately. So I would say, as an artist and as a producer, learn how to communicate with people, learn how to build relationships with people, and I feel like you will go way, way further. Your music will get heard easier. You would know how to present yourself when it comes to physical meetings or virtual meetings. You would know how to present yourself if you take the time to build a relationship and build value for other people. So that way you can build value for yourself and have a working relationship and building your network the right way, man. That's really the only top three I could think of right now.
That's perfect. So where should everyone find you? And is there anything you'd like people listening to know about?
Yeah, so everyone, you can go on rizrmusic.com, RIZR music.com. That's where I usually post up most of my stuff. I put out free sample loops that I create on Twitch. Every Friday, I create some new samples, and it goes up the very next day on Saturday morning. So you guys tune in at the end of every week if you want to get a free sample. I will be starting to put out premium samples soon that will be paid, so take advantage now. I got a couple of things up there. I'm streaming on Twitch every Wednesday, Friday, and Sunday, 5 p.m. Eastern time in New York. We do collaborations, we do feedbacks, we do contests. Beat battles are coming soon. We also do my podcast every Friday, 5 p.m. Eastern time. It's called Build and Vibe. So you can tune in. We got a lot of really cool people coming in there. And yeah, man, what's coming up next? I was talking about it with my chat, my Build and Vibe family on Twitch. I'm going to be building a sample pack that's created by the Twitch community on my Twitch channel. And also, like I mentioned, premium sample packs. I'm going to be dropping albums and different things soon. Again, you can check out my albums on rizrmusic.com. A lot of different artists I worked on. You can check out a lot of tracks that are debuting right now on my channel. And that's about it, man. I mean, look out for the podcast episodes also on my YouTube. That's all I got.